Have you ever blink?
Yeah.
And suddenly, I don't know, a whole chunk of time just seems to have
Yeah.
disappeared.
Oh, absolutely. Like you're lost in thought or working on something.
Yeah, exactly. And when you snap out of it, it feels like hours passed in a minute. That feeling, that weird time thing, that's kind of what we're diving into today.
It is, yeah. We're looking at a lecture Neville Goddard gave back in '68, December 16th, actually. It's called A Prophecy.
Right, the one cool wisdom posted online.
Yeah.
And it digs into a William Blake poem.
That's the one, Blake's Europe. Goddard uses it to talk about this idea of, well, almost like falling asleep to time. Huge stretches passing without you even noticing.
Like being totally absorbed, losing track completely.
Precisely. So what we want to do today is really unpack Goddard's interpretation of Blake here.
No.
What does this whole concept mean for you, for how you see yourself, how you see reality?
We're aiming for those aha moments, hopefully, without getting too bogged down.
Let's try.
Okay, so Blake's poem, Europe. Goddard zooms in on specific lines, right? Then Enith Harman wrote.
Nor knew that she had slept, and 1,800 years were fled as if they had not been. Yeah, those lines.
So first off, who or what is Enith Harman? In Goddard's view, I mean.
Okay, so for Goddard, Enith Harman is basically any emanating desire or image.
Any desire, like wanting a coffee.
Well, maybe a bit grander than that usually, but yeah, the principle holds. It's the image you hold in your mind, the thing you're projecting, your desire given form. He also calls her the emanation of loss.
And losses.
Loss in Blake's system represents the Lord in all imagination. Think of loss as pure imagination, the creative force. Enith Harman is what that imagination creates, the image, the desire.
Got it. So imagination loss creates this image, Enith Harman. Then what happens in the poem? He enters it.
Yeah, Goddard explains it as loss entering his own creation, his emanation, Enith Harman. He gets completely absorbed in it, basically dreaming it into reality.
And that's when the time thing happens.
Exactly. He's so immersed that when he finally wakes up, those 1,800 years feel like nothing, like no time passed at all. He didn't even know he'd been asleep in the image.
Wow. And this isn't just literary analysis for Goddard, is it? He connects it to himself.
Oh, very directly. He talks about his own experience feeling like 1,959 years, a very specific number had just vanished for him.
1,959. Close to Blake's 1,800.
Right. And he says he had zero idea he'd entered into an image called Neville and made it real. It was a personal revelation for him.
He has that line, I, all imagination, so loved the shadow I had cast, I entered into it and made it alive. What's this shadow idea?
Okay, so according to Goddard's take on Blake, the idea is that originally we were all part of the divine source, unified. Then somehow we heard the story, maybe the story of separation, of individuality, and we entered into our shadows.
So the shadow is?
Us.
Our individual lives.
Kind of. Think of a shadow more like a representation, maybe a character you play. It's distinct from the source, the ultimate reality, but it's real in its own context. It's the form imagination takes in this world.
And he connects this to Paul in the Bible.
Yeah, Paul asking the Galatians why they were acting bewitched, seeing Jesus as some external figure instead of embodying the story themselves.
So it's about becoming the thing, not just observing it.
Precisely. Goddard's point is you have to enter the story, the desired reality, as the main character and stay there until it becomes your actual external reality. You inhabit the shadow until it's fully alive.
Which brings us to God's pattern. What's the big picture here?
Goddard's view is that God, out of love, destined us to become his sons through this pattern called Jesus Christ. He says God basically fell in love with his own image, entered it, and became his son.
So God entered the shadow of Jesus Christ.
That's the idea.
Yeah.
And this divine act, this immersion, sets the blueprint for everything else.
How does that blueprint relate to, well, us?
Yeah.
Our everyday desires?
It's a direct parallel. Goddard says when you conceive a scene, any scene, that implies your wish is fulfilled and you really feel it's true, that act of imagination creates the pattern for the desire to unfold.
So imagining being successful is the pattern for success.
If you truly enter that imagined state, yes, it mirrors God's pattern. Goddard felt this pattern had completely unfolded in him, which is a pretty bold claim.
Definitely. Now, he also talks about emanations, desires, being feminine. Can you unpack that?
Right. He says the emanation is always feminine, and he uses Eve coming from Adam's side as the reference point.
So my desire for a house or more money or whatever, that's feminine.
In this framework, yes. The desire itself, the image, the thing wished for, house, money, health, is receptive, feminine. Imagination, the power that conceives and enters the desire, is the active male principle.
Okay, so male imagination enters the feminine
And
desire.
it has to stay there, no doubt. You have to persuade yourself so thoroughly that the feeling of having it is the only reality you know. You live in the fulfilled desire.
And does time play a role here? How long does this take?
Well, Goddard is clear that in our everyday world, what he calls Caesar's world, the time it takes for that inner reality to project outwardly can vary. An hour, a day, a week, a month.
So it's not always instant, like the 1800 years vanishing.
Not necessarily in terms of external results, but the core principle is the same.
Yeah.
You enter the image, you remain there, like God did. Become one with it.
And he mentions waking up not knowing he'd been asleep or in a tomb, the tomb being the image, right?
Yes, the image, the shadow, the state he entered. It's like Blake described in another poem, Milton. From a higher perspective, the one entering the shadow looks like they're asleep on a couch of gold.
Safe and sound, sort of.
Right. But to the person inside that experience, they feel lost, like a wanderer in darkness. And Goddard suggests that feeling. That resonates with how many of us feel sometimes, doesn't it? Lost, confused.
Yeah, definitely. And why do we feel that way, according to him?
Because, he says, we're fundamentally in love with the being you believe yourself to be. Even if that includes struggles or things we don't like, we're attached to this current shadow.
Attached to our identity, warts and all.
Exactly. But he says the living being within us, the core awareness, gives life to that shadow, that name, that story, and the potential is there to transform it into a life-giving spirit.
So there's this predetermined pattern again, Jesus Christ, guiding us back.
Yes, Goddard emphasizes this pattern was set before anything began. It's the way back to our original state. Like, say, a businessman maps out a scene implying huge success. If he believes in the truth of that scene,
The pattern unfolds.
that's the claim. The key is persistence. You have to stay faithful to that inner vision, that desired image.
And this isn't just for Goddard or Blake. He says God is doing this in everyone.
That's his view. God enters the image of every single child born. To those outside, in immortality, God looks asleep inside that person. But to God, within that person, it feels like being lied, like dreaming.
And upon waking, potentially millennia could have passed unnoticed.
Right. 1,800 years, 2,000 years. It just vanishes from that awakened perspective.
So the advice is imitate God. How?
Use the same technique. Fall in love with the image of what you want to be, who you want to be, and enter it in your imagination.
Become it internally.
Yes. He points to I am as God's name. When you say I am successful or I am healthy, you're using God's name, defining your state of being. God dreaming of being Neville was God entering a body saying, I am Neville.
And when God woke up as Neville, realizing the oneness,
All time collapsed. The separation, the dream ended for that specific expression.
which leads to his unique take on Christmas. It's not the birth in Bethlehem.
Not primarily, no. For Goddard, Christmas is the moment within you when man awakens as God, the awakening from the dream.
And how long this dream lasts depends on.
How deeply God is lost in it, how identified he is with the individual shadow he entered.
He relates this to our own goals, like wanting success.
Absolutely. He says, look, the world is just you pushed out. If you want success, you have to be successful in your imagination first. Persuade yourself 100%. Live in that feeling until it's natural, until you forget you ever doubted it. That's how God became us.
And as we start to wake up, this Jesus Christ pattern unfolds.
Yes. That pattern of salvation starts revealing itself in you as you awaken, as you resurrect from the limitation, the tomb God entered, because God is life. Entering the dead shadow makes it alive.
He uses the Old and New Testaments to show this shift, right?
The Old Testament asking God to wake up. Rise thyself, O Lord, awake.
Like pleading from within the dream.
Exactly. But the New Testament shows the Lord awakening, realizing oneness with the image he loves. And Goddard says, when God awakens from loving your specific image, you are he. That's Christmas.
And the BC 80 split in time? How does that fit?
He sees that as marking the point when God fully incarnated into the image he loved. Blake's 1,800 years, Goddard's 1959 years. Different measures for this transition. It happens each in his own order. There's a divine timing.
So the God that woke up in Neville is the same God dreaming in me, in you, right now.
That's the core message, the very same divine imagination. He describes his own awakening vividly emerging from his skull, symbolic imagery like the birth of God. It's the moment of shifting into that higher state. Identifying with the loved image is what raises you, makes you born as God.
It sounds like God initially loves the image like a reflection, something separate.
Yes, like a shadow, initially lifeless. But the love is so strong, he enters it, falls asleep within it, dreams he is it. And because he's life itself, he animates it, makes it solid, real, with all the feelings, good and bad, until the dream fulfills its purpose.
And the awakening itself has a pattern.
A very specific, predetermined pattern, Goddard insists. Rising from sleep or death as the son, discovering David, his son, proving fatherhood, being split in two symbolically, ascending like a fiery serpent, and finally, the dove descending, the seal of approval.
So practically, if I want to be, say, a great artist,
You apply the same principle. You map out a scene that implies you are already that great artist. Maybe you're accepting an award or seeing your work acclaimed.
and then I just believe it.
You live in it. You believe in its truth so fully that it becomes your reality. Goddard says this is how you test your own infinite power. You're imitating God.
He also talks about feeling like a wanderer himself sometimes.
Right. Even while experiencing this, he felt lost at times. But he suggests those with deeper insight could see the bigger picture, him dreaming on a golden couch, fulfilling a purpose. So the advice is, stay faithful to your vision, especially when things seem tough.
Like the pains of labor before birth.
Exactly that analogy. The struggles in manifesting, the pains are forgotten when the child, the fulfilled desire, or ultimately the awakening as God is born, when your personal Christmas arrives.
There's that Blake quote again about the spectator entering the image.
If the spectator could only enter into the image in his imagination, he would rise from the grave.
Yeah. It's about moving from observer to participant, making the imagined state your friend, your companion, your reality.
Because the ultimate goal is fulfilling that divine destiny, becoming like God.
Yes, God's love destined us to be as he is. The pattern, Jesus Christ, is the way. Fulfilling it breaks down the walls, unites you with infinity.
So the way most people celebrate Christmas, it's a misunderstanding.
According to Goddard, yes. A misunderstanding of the true internal individual event. The real Christmas is this series of inner awakenings, starting with God stirring within the shadow, releasing immense power.
And these awakenings have specific symbols, not just vague feelings.
He stressed that. Predetermined symbolism distinguishes the real deal from just foreshadowings or adumbrations. These true visionary events, he says, are what's actually recorded in the Gospels.
He mentions two births as well. Right. The physical birth from the womb, obviously. But the crucial one is the second birth, the spiritual one, from above, from the tomb above. He cites John's Gospel talking about being born a nothing from that higher source.
And rising like the serpent.
Like Moses raised the serpent in the wilderness, it's about that transformative ascent.
And it all goes back to the Word became flesh.
Exactly, John 1. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God. The Word became flesh and dwells in us. God became us. We are that flesh saying, I am. But the goal isn't to stay just flesh. It's to become a life-giving spirit by fulfilling the pattern.
Which allows entry into the kingdom of heaven.
A state of being, yes. Expanded consciousness.
And he keeps coming back to love, God loving the individual image.
It's central. God fell in love with your image, entered it by falling asleep, and now loves the being you are right now, the one you identify with. And he points out, you love being you, don't you? Your own individuality. You wouldn't trade it.
True. Most wouldn't.
So the whole purpose of this cosmic drama, this entering the shadow,
Is to make it a living being.
and then, upon God's awakening within it, to transform that being into a life-giving spirit. It's all about greater and greater individualization, but on a divine level. That's the real Christmas story.
But when does this happen? The awakening.
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Goddard admits we don't know the timing. He points to Blake, born 1757, wrote Europe in 1794. The awakening isn't tied to getting old.
It's its own timeline.
Seems so. Blake believed we're united with Christ in death, meaning entering the shadow, and so we'll be united in resurrection too. He saw individuality as universally diffused, potentially awakening anywhere, anytime.
What about that cavern man image from Blake?
Ah, yes. Blake pictures us like beings in a cave with openings, eyes, ears, breath, mouth. Maybe 4 main sensory inputs, but what's the 5th?
Imagination.
That's Goddard's interpretation, yeah.
Yeah.
Imagination is the sense that lets you escape the cavern, be mentally anywhere, regardless of where your body is.
So the mainstream Christian view has missed this whole mystical interpretation.
That's certainly Goddard's stance. He hopes listeners will eventually experience Scripture directly and know this deeper mystery of Christmas personally.
And he describes the feeling of waking up.
Yeah, quite vividly. Knowing you are in your tomb, the image, the body, but you're also somehow in your skull. It's paradoxical. And there's an innate knowing, an impulse to push out.
And the stone rolls away.
Symbolically, yes, the limitation falls away.
And they're witnesses to this. 3 of them.
Yes, fulfilling the scripture about truth needing 2 or 3 witnesses. There's the awakened one, the father, recognizing the sign, the child, or new awareness. There's scripture, the pattern itself. And a third, confirming witness, often David in his experience, confirming fatherhood.
So this whole complex internal drama. This is the story.
This is the story of Christmas, as Goddard saw it. The fulfillment of the prophecy made before the world began. The awakening of God in the individual.
Wow, okay, that's a lot to take in. Let's just pause for a second.
Good idea.
Okay, so just to kind of wrap up our deep dive into Goddard's A Prophecy. The big idea seems to be that we've all entered this kind of personal shadow or image.
Right, like a role we're playing or a dream we're having.
And within that dream, huge amounts of what we call time can feel like they pass maybe centuries, even millennia, from a different perspective.
But eventually, there's this potential for an awakening, a realization of our true nature, which Goddard equates with God awakening within us.
It definitely makes you think differently about, well, everything.
Yeah.
Time, reality, who you think you are.
It absolutely challenges those basic assumptions. Maybe what feels so solid is more like a very, very convincing dream we're creating.
And it really pushes you to think about the image you hold of yourself right now, doesn't it?
Yeah.
What if you consciously use your imagination, like Blake and Goddard suggest, to, I don't know, reshape that image, to awaken something new?
Exactly. Which brings us to the final thought for you, the listener. What underlying prophecy, what potential might be unfolding in your life right now, maybe just beneath the surface? And what would it feel like to have that sudden awakening Goddard describes? To see your reality, yourself, in a completely new light?
Definitely something to mull over. We hope this gave you some interesting food for thought. We'll be back again soon, diving into more fascinating ideas.